everyone. I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 183 with Samman. What have you been reading? I have read another book by Ona Chris. This is my third one. I'm an Ona completist, it seems, although I do have a couple more to go. But this one, The Space You Left Behind, is a YA book, and in verse, like this. And I will invite you, Samman. I will hopefully, and one of those will hopefully work. I really enjoyed this book. I love Ona's writing. Oh, looks like it worked. Hello.
Hello, Allison. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Good. Um, I'm so glad you're here. I was listening to your episode of Writing Your Resilience with Lisa Cooper Ellison again, and it was such a beautiful
Oh,
conversation. And I'm just thrilled you're here, and I'm excited to hear you read your poem. And um, I don't know. I was really touched by your episode and everything you had to say. And so thank you for being here.
thank you. You're very kind. I truly enjoyed talking with Lisa. She just has a wonderful way of asking the questions, and you can see it in her eyes the way she understands, and it's just compassionate curiosity. And I also enjoyed writing the poem, following the wonderful prompt. It was genius, the way you have structured it. I
I
was
didn't
really
make it.
feeling it.
A lot of people think I made the
Oh,
prompt,
really?
understandably, because I'm sending it to
Mm-hmm.
people. But George L. Lyon, who wrote the original poem, I think it was a friend of hers. His name is Fred First. He made the prompt like
Okay.
decades ago,
Mm.
and it has just circulated around the globe. It's an amazing thing. I think it's an amazing act of generosity, and it's just it's inspiring
I
the way
agree.
that she is moved by everyone using her poem as an inspiration. You know, she watches a lot of these, reads a lot of these, loves them, and I find that really inspiring because I think generosity is such an important
Mm.
quality.
Hmm. I love that. Well, thanks to you, now I know about it.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And I was thinking of Lisa, and when she says at the end of the podcast, trauma informed lawyer.
Yes, I am a trauma-informed pre-law student
Yeah, I love
in
that.
the niche and stuck in my professor's office because I couldn't find a quiet place. So
Oh, well, thank you, Professor. That's
I
nice.
know she's the sweetest. I call her my
Oh,
hero.
that's lovely. I
Hmm.
a woman I have mentored in the past. She's also pre-law, and
Hmm.
I need to tell her the trauma. She's in UAE, and I need to tell her like, hey, trauma-informed lawyer, because I she's
Lawyer.
very interested in a lot of the same
Mm.
things as you are. So, anyway, anything else that you'd like to say or talk about before you read your poem?
I am I'm here to read the poem. I'm ready
Okay,
if you are.
I am.
Okay.
Okay.
Where I am from. I am from ink. I am from Sharpie gel pen and its permanent sting. I am from the ones with names crossed out in red, bygones yet forever present. A place where I stepped out of my skin before leaving. I am from tulips, cascading, trespassing, uprooting barbed wires. I am from festive, oblong plastic sheets on crimson rugs and fluctuating dining tables. From Pari and Khamosh. I am from the wandering lineage who couldn't say goodbye. And I am loved more by the dead than the living. From Afghanistan and its afternoon winds that blew Persian poetry onto paper. Use your imagination and don't grieve. I will come again. I am from peace tormented by war, from mellowed mountains, identity crisis, mothers cradling the cradle with one hand and the weight of the world with the other, hot steam wafts with black seeds aroma sprinkled on none. From the women who still thought about the fresh green grapes under the couch 20 years later. The aunt who had picked them from the backyard's vineyard before the tanks chased her, climbing mountains like trails of ants. From the womb that shielded me from bullets, I am from refugee women, who faded into ivory butterflies and are born again with each poem I write. I fit my homeland in a backpack to carry the heart in my chest.
Thank you. I didn't cry too much. I was determined not to just, because in your poem and in your writing and in your advocacy, you talk a lot about the power of, writing your own story. And I agree with you. I think it's so important that we.
You're fine.
My college roommate. Hello. So I just think I truly believe if we all sort of like believed in the importance of our own stories and the stories of others, it would change the way we think about the world. So I'm grateful that you are telling yours, and I know that I was actually talking with someone last week who wrote a memoir about her grandparents in the Japanese camps here during World War II, and we were talking about that it's a weight, it's a heaviness to tell these stories and to feel that we're telling stories for people who aren't around to tell them themselves or don't have the tools or the ability or strength to do it. And it is a big ask of you that you're doing this. And I just want to acknowledge that it's no small thing that you're telling your story. And I'm grateful that you are.
Thank you. That is so kind of you to say. And I love how you phrased that. It's very true that they are not here to tell their stories and they are not here because of reasons that people don't even know. So a part of storytelling or humanizing the statistics through literature is to tell the stories and make people think, why did those things happen and who survives to tell the story and why do they survive and what's the significance of art and poetry. I think is in its power to humanize us, to ground us to where we come from. And it's just a wonderful experience. Of course, writing it and sharing it is not easy, but I think at the end, when you're done, it all becomes so worthwhile.
What was it like writing a poem about where you're from? What was it like for you?
That's a great question. I remember it was late at night because I'm a night owl, nocturnal creature. So I had the lights turned off and was listening to neoclassical music. I do that often with poems that are difficult to write. Somehow it helps me get through. And I really enjoyed the prompts because it would make me go back and dig memories. Like the line where I mentioned, it was so interesting. From Afghanistan and its afternoon winds that blew Persian poetry onto paper. So recently I was talking with my friend and I was like, in Afghanistan, in Kabul, every afternoon the winds would be so strong, even in the harsh, scorching summer, you would get that chilling wind that would just breathe life into you. And then we would have like poetry books on the shelf by the window, and the wind would blow them away and would be so poetic that just the scene itself. And then I read the prompt where you mentioned a memory about your home, and that just came to my mind, and I had forgotten about that. So I loved how this poem, the prompt, made me go back to places that I might have never recalled if it wasn't for this poem. So that I enjoyed that process, and also the story of my mom and my aunt when they were just undergrads, second year students, when the civil war happened in Afghanistan, and they literally had picked the grapes and were had it under the couch to have it after they took a nap, but they woke up to the sounds of tanks and climbed the mountains, and they never were able to go back home again. So to have that in this poem is, I think, very important for me as a way, because to me, only I can only bring them back to life when I'm writing this poem. So we are not just forgotten stories.
I That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I have been working on editing an anthology of essays about sibling loss, and I think of that often because my brother died when I was younger, my brother Michael, and I think about it often that I feel like there's no better way to honor him than the act of telling his story and facilitating others telling their siblings and saying their names. And what was your mom and what were their names? Your mom and your aunt?
My mom is was Gina, and my aunt, I'm glad she's
Oh,
alive,
she is.
and her name, yes, Zomer. But my grandmother, who was with them, of course, who was also taking a nap and had picked the grapes, she unfortunately passed away just as a refugee. I have another poem that ends with the lines, my grandmother was a refugee and then a bedridden woman who faded. My mother was a refugee and then a bedridden woman who faded. I am a refugee, bringing them to life for a moment, so we are not forgotten stories. And that, yeah, it's my way of bringing them back to life, honoring their legacy, because these women, they have taught me so much, even if our time was not enough or long to be together, but through their resilience, through their, just smiling at life and not succumbing to what happened, taught me so much to just carry that grace with me. And yeah, I'm
And
proud
their
of
love,
that.
I think, is in you. I mean, I believe that with everyone who I've loved and who's loved me, like that love, you carry it with you.
Yeah.
And even though we didn't get enough time, like with that person, it's still there.
That is a wonderful point. The the length of the time we spend with them isn't important. It's the quality and the depth of love we had with them. And that was something, that was beautiful.
I think
And
it's
to
fair, though, to want
have
more,
that.
because I certainly want more.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time, I felt like, oh, I shouldn't want more. And I think also people tell you, like, oh, young people are resilient, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I think it's also fair to say, oh, more would have been nice. I'm greedy for the people I love and the time that I could spend with them.
I second that. I think that's beautiful. That's like saying my capacity to love is infinite. I'm not gonna have the scarcity mindset. I'm gonna
Right.
be genuine and open. And I think that's good. But the truth is that love will be gone, but it will definitely return in a different way.
I think
So
so.
it's good to have your heart open and be greedy, but just the acknowledgement that it's gonna be different. It helps.
Yeah. 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 Um, so, well, is there anything I usually just ask people? Sorry, I'm like,
You're fine. You're just
I cry and laugh a lot as a person, which was
I'm gonna do it
challenging.
after we end this. I'm like,
Fair.
yep.
Yeah. So were you hesitant to write do you get hesitant to tell these stories, or do you like get tired of it, or sort of just fatigued
Mm.
with it? Like, are you just like, okay, I need to kind of because I'm asking for my own, I'm asking for a friend that's me, this feeling sometimes of, which I mostly don't feel anymore. But I used to feel this kind of like, oh, I need to look forward and not backward, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Now I feel more like I can look wherever I want, whenever I want. It's up to me. But
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you ever feel like that.
That's such a profound question and something I am for sure tackling with too, because as a student of literature and poetry, you
Mm-hmm.
are in classes, you are around people who write and have the passion for writing just as you, but they write as if they belong to a different universe sometimes. And
Yeah.
you are like, will I, how how can I write something that they can relate to it too? You know,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you're so busy being in other people's minds that forget your own. But then I think of poetry. I don't want to make this about someone else's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I am, as long as that thing inside me is bothering me, because feelings, we
Mm-hmm.
love them, we embrace them, but sometimes they can be overwhelming, you know?
Yeah.
And for me to get it out of my system, I'm going to write about it over and over again. I have asked this question, we talked
Oh,
about this with Lisa.
Lisa. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that at the end. Yeah.
yes, and I want to reiterate it
Yeah.
that the professor told me, it's your story. I
Mm-hmm.
was afraid that I'm sounding like a broken record. I'm saying the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the originality, you know, the creativity, the novelty of writing? But then she said, no one can say it but you. It is your story, own it. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, she's right. If I get to say one thing, why isn't that enough?
Yeah.
Um, it's my story. I'm gonna say it, and it takes a lifetime to make peace with things that happen. And poetry for me is, in a way, making peace with it all. And it's an important story because it's not just about me.
It's a
It's not
very
just
important
about me.
story.
Yeah.
I think it's, I mean, I think I think it's a great piece of advice for anyone because I think we get in our own way, right? And then there are people
Mm-hmm.
who tell the same story over and over again and are considered masters. They're usually white guys. Um, and it's something that we are concerned with,
Mm-hmm.
and but I mean, separate, my story is separate from yours. I think what you are talking about is so essential to understanding so many things about the world we live in, and what a lot of the world is dealing with,
Yeah.
and we are connected,
Mm-hmm.
whether people want to believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to be a community and be together? Like, we need to
Absolutely.
figure it out.
Exactly. I mean, just the question itself that I'm always currently I'm taking a poetry class where I have to write series of poems, and the poems need to be connected with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes I get asked questions that I really don't know how to answer. And one of those questions is, where are you from? It's such a simple question, right?
Yeah, but you're not the only one who's joined me who feels that way. And I find those poems to be the most fascinating in some
Yeah.
ways because I think so many simple questions
Mm-hmm.
often are, for certain people, incredibly complex.
Mm-hmm.
One is, how many siblings do you have? For anyone who's
Mm.
experienced loss,
Yeah.
what do I tell people?
Mm-hmm.
Who do I tell what? Which I wouldn't be
Mm.
surprised if you deal with some of that with where I'm from. Like, who is this person? How deep do I want to go with them? What do I,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to spend your time comforting them,
Yeah.
which is why I was trying not to cry because I don't want you to feel like you have to comfort me. You know, I don't know if you go through that, but I have gone through that many different stages of my life with certain trauma. It's like, who are you? What do I tell you?
Mm. No, that's beautiful. That's on point. As you mentioned, for each of us, those questions might be different, but the grief is still just as heavy. And your poem is going to be my response for that question. Where are you from? I wish I could
That's
just
good.
pull out the paper and read it for them, they're not gonna ask again.
You can just make copies,
Mhm.
yeah, hand them out.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm definitely thinking about it. Because yeah, if I say I'm a refugee from Afghanistan, it was interesting. I was asked in a class literally because it's the first question that professors ask, and where are you all from? And I was like, Afghanistan. Oh, are you an international student? No, I'm a refugee. Oh, so in here, where are you from? Oh, this city. And it's just, it keeps going. And I'm like, what do I tell
Mhm,
you?
mhm,
So that's why poetry is
mhm,
important. I mean, it
mhm,
answers questions. It gives you that process, that kindness of take your time and answer this. I'm going to save you a seat in the chaos. You can sit down, you can think about it, and you don't have to rush your answer and smile about it. Just say it as you will,
mhm.
which is so beautiful.
Save you a seat in the chaos. I
Mm,
love that. Mm, yeah, I think it's true. I didn't think of it in terms of poetry, but I just you many the people usually the people I'm most interested in talking to don't have easy answers. But we live in a society that generally wants easy answers, quick. Um, and I think that is for me, one of the joys of getting older. There's less of an expectation that I'm easy to read.
yeah, yeah, no, so much gets lost in easy answers. I feel like the depth of each story is so significant, and poetry and literature is a way to make space for that depth. We watch the news, we see the statistics, but we don't know the human behind it, the feeling behind that,
Mm-hmm.
and storytelling through poetry, and, and through answering those questions and the depth and justice that it deserves, I think, can change lives, can change perspectives, can change the way we engage with each other, like forgetting about the differences and coming back to our senses that, oh, wait a second, this person feels grief the same way that I do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to have selective empathy, but I'm going to find our similarities through these shared feelings and experiences, which is what we are doing. Your grief, my grief, our stories might be different.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the way you have put our childhood pictures beside each other. It's like, from very different times, from different parts of the world, but here we are. We are telling a story.
Well, and I think sometimes Michelle Yang, who joined me early on, sent me her childhood picture. That's how it started. She just sent it to me and said, "Oh, this is the Michelle that I was writing about." So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to send you this picture, and I loved it because I love childhood pictures, and not everyone who joins me has them for different
Mm-hmm.
reasons, but a lot of people do, and I think it's so much easier for us to connect with those parts of ourselves and of others and see the preciousness and the fragility and the singularity of
Mm-hmm.
children. We're it's easier for us,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I'm most interested in is how each of us carry that person around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's always there, the remembrance of your inner child always being there with you. I think it makes us be kinder and gentler, at least to ourselves. Like,
That's the hope,
yeah,
right?
yeah, because
Yeah.
if your kindness doesn't include yourself, it's definitely incomplete.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the hardest one to get. I think for me it was on the tail end. But it's yeah, like I need to talk to myself the way I talk to other people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the bare minimum.
Yeah,
If you
yeah, and
talk
I
to
guess
other people with kindness, which I try to do.
exactly. And I feel like that having that childhood picture reminds you to, oh, would I say this to that little girl
Yeah.
that is in front of me? I won't. So that I'm still that little girl. I just grew a bit taller. Um, so it's important the way you talk with yourself. It's a struggle. It's a journey. But I really loved the idea of having the pictures together and yeah.
I'm very grateful to Michelle that she sent that. And because also before that, it was just people's kind of like their professional headshots or whatever. And it felt
Mm.
much more like, I don't know, professional, like work oriented, because of just the nature of the
Mm-hmm.
pictures, you know? And uh, it's not, I mean, it's not that, it's something else. And I think those pictures tap into that. So, and every week, it's very meaningful to hear people's poems. And when I get people's pictures in my inbox, it makes me happy every time. Like there's something about it that is truly magical.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm great. I think I said to you in an email when you shared your successes, like I I really am a hoarder of like good news. I
Mm-hmm.
just want to hear good news from people. Like I want to hear everybody's good news. I'm not envious or covet. I just want to hear it because it makes me happy
Mm-hmm.
to think that people are, you know, in spite of the world, they
Mm-hmm.
are continuing forward and finding joy and success. Like it is important to me. And
Mm-hmm.
um, receiving those pictures as part of that. Like we're still here. We're still championing ourselves and these younger parts of ourselves. And I think it matters. I have to think it matters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
No, I love that.
um,
Super.
well, anything else before we wrap up? Thank you for spending time with me and sharing your poem. And I'm so glad that you're writing. And I don't know if you do this, but this is my piece of writing advice that took me decades. Just like imagine me when you're writing or somebody who thinks you're wonderful. And if there's someone who doesn't, just they're not going to read it. So who cares what they think? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like it, because I felt like in academia, because I had got a master's as well,
Mm-hmm.
especially in my master's program, I felt like I spent so much time worried if I was interesting or if people liked my writing, who like would never like it. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter what I do, like they aren't interested.
Mm-hmm.
And I flipped the switch because I took time away because I just couldn't do it. And the switch flipped where it was like, oh, I'm going to write for people who want to read what I have to say. That's it. And that's enough. You know, like if somebody doesn't like your work, who cares?
Yes. Okay.
And there's plenty of people who do.
Yeah, we can have our own personal live sessions.
Yeah, like,
It's for us.
yeah, just imagine me or Lisa or whoever. Yeah, I'm sure you have lots of people who are, you know, lifting you up and believing in your
Mm.
work, which is essential to keep going. I think for all of us, having people who are like, thank you for writing. I appreciate you. So thank you for writing. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for writing. Thank you for having me. It's been such a
Yeah.
pleasure.
So I'm excited to see and read your work. And I just thank you, Lisa, for this introduction. And
Yes.
thank you, Salman. And have a lovely day.
You as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Okay, bye.